two-wheelers. If you don't wear helmets, get ready to be denied fuel in the state of Uttar Pradesh. This safety measure has just been introduced in a letter addressed to all 75 districts in the state by the Transport Commissioner, Brajesh Singh. The aim of this is, of course, to reduce the number of road accidents and fatalities that involve two-wheelers, which are famously called donor cycles, because driving them can be so dangerous that the riders tend to become organ donors. Now, in this official letter, fuel station operators have been directed not to sell fuel to two-wheeler riders who don't wear helmets, including the pillion. Now, this move comes after the Chief Minister, Yogi Adityanath, had taken stock of the state's road accidents, noting that on an annual basis, 25,000 to 26,000 lives are lost due to road accidents. And the majority of deaths in these road accidents involved two-wheeler riders who don't wear helmets. It's also important to note that driving a two-wheeler without a helmet is illegal in India. You can be fined 1,000 rupees for not wearing a helmet. However, there's a lack of implementation as far as this law is concerned, which is why, if you frequent India's roads, you'll notice many motorcycle drivers without helmets. Now, we want to welcome our guest to the broadcast at this point. We have Mr. Sumir Kumar, who is a former executive editor of Bike India magazine. We have Ms. Ritika Singh, who is a passionate biker. We also have Mr. Shailesh Sinha, who is the CEO of the Traffic People Foundation, also a road safety expert. Everyone, thank you so much for taking out the time to discuss this very important issue of road safety, considering this new development that's taken place in one state, in Uttar Pradesh. Ms. Ritika, I want to come to you first, considering that you are somebody who is a passionate biker. I believe you also have bikes of your own called Zela and Zuri as well. But considering that you are very relevant as far as this conversation is concerned, you know, we've had laws in places for years, decades in fact, yet you still see people on the roads without helmets. So do you think that this new notification in Uttar Pradesh will make any difference?
Thanks for having me part of the panel here. I completely support this policy of no helmet, no fuel, because I have been encouraging safe biking since 2017. And the biggest challenge that I see is most people wear helmets just to avoid a challan, but it is actually a very important aspect of safe biking and to save yourself. You have to invest in a good helmet. And since this law if this law comes into play, a lot of two-wheelers, people who are daily commuters who avoid it will be required, it will be necessitated for them to wear a helmet, which will prevent from loss of life when an actual accident happens, which could be happening because it's not even their own fault, but someone else's carelessness. So I fully support this decision, and I think
Absolutely.
It's a very good move towards securing the lives every day that we lose just because of road accidents, for especially for two-wheelers. So I'm all for it, and I look forward to seeing a lot of people, even the pillions, wearing their helmets as this law comes into place.
Absolutely, I think it's something we all hope to see, especially those who frequently drive on India's roads. Mr. Kumar, I want to come to you next. I want to ask you about this general phenomena of people who don't wear helmets. I want to ask you, what do you think the underlying reason for this is? Do you think there's not enough awareness? Do you think people don't care enough about themselves? Are the consequences not scary enough?
I think people do care. I think the problem is lack of rider education and a lack of rider training. So,
Okay.
even at the time of when licenses are given out, for example, testing should be much more stringent. Rider training is required. Rider training schools are required across the country where qualified riding instructors can teach young riders the basics of riding a motorcycle. How to see a motorcycle can be a very powerful machine, right? But the rider controls that machine. You have an accelerator, you have a brake pedal, and so you are in control. Teaching riders how to ride properly and educating them on the importance of always wearing a helmet. I think that is the key. Rider training, education, and more stringent testing at the time of giving a license. forcing people to wear a helmet by having laws like, we'll not give you fuel if you're not riding, if you're not wearing a helmet. See, if riders are hell bent upon not wearing a helmet, they will find ways around it. So, for example, there could be riders who buy a very cheap
Okay.
plastic helmet available on roadside stalls, wear it just to go to the fuel pump, and then, get fuel, and then 100 meters down the road, take that helmet off. So, unless there is training, unless there is awareness, unless there is strict testing at the time of giving a license, so, I think those are the keys. Forcing people to wear a helmet I don't know if it will work. I am not very sure really.
So why don't you think that this kind of consequence will work? Do you think that people don't really care about this kind of consequence to the extent that, as you mentioned as well, people can probably buy helmets on the side of the street, then take them off 10 meters down the line? Then do you think that maybe we need more police patrolling the roads?
I think we absolutely need, more strict implementation. So, for example, on many roads, highways also, you already have cameras, right? So, if you find people not wearing a helmet while riding a bike, there can be fines. For example, fine people by all means. Have fines, have hefty fines if you need, for repeat offenders, for people who are repeatedly caught without wearing a helmet while riding a motorcycle, have hefty fines. But like I said, the underlying cause is always lack of, I would say, awareness, lack of people. A lot of riders simply do not understand the how important it is for them to wear a helmet while riding a motorcycle. So it's like chalta hai, acha chalo theek hai. I'm just going 100 meters down the road or 2 kilometers down to the shops. Accidents can happen anywhere at any point. It doesn't matter if you are 2 kilometers from your house or 5 kilometers or 50 kilometers. The point is to always wear a helmet. But the way to push that always wearing a helmet thing, rider education and rider training. Have incessant campaigns for educating riders, for training riders, convincing them to wear a helmet rather than forcing them to wear one. It is only then that they'll actually buy good quality, properly certified helmets and then hopefully always wear them whenever they are riding.
Absolutely. I think then another aspect of this that is that maybe we need to regulate the sale of helmets as well and ensure that the ones which are sold are only of good quality. Mr. Kumar, I'm going to come back to you to bounce off of what we just discussed, but I also want to bring in Mr. Sinha, who still remains with us on this broadcast. Mr. Sinha, what I want to ask you is that there's constant discussion about how little value there is for life. You're a road safety expert. So whether we talk about bystander syndrome, where nobody steps in to stop something bad from happening, to how much poverty we still see across the country, even the law says that you can be fined 1,000 rupees for not wearing a helmet. Only 1,000 rupees. Do you think that stricter laws are also the need of the hour, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to bring in anything to picture in terms of, people using it strictly, there has to be stricter laws, and which is a beautiful thing which has happened. I mean, I really welcome the move by the UP government for no fuel, no helmet, or no helmet, no fuel. Number one. Number two, we need to understand one thing very clearly, that Uttar Pradesh is the capital of fatalities in India when it comes to road crashes. Approximately 25,000 people die on an average every year. And we need to understand that Uttar Pradesh, or maybe any B or C city, in India, they take scooter riding, bike riding very casually. I mean, they do not take it very seriously, because as it was said by the previous debater, that I have to drive only 2 kilometers or 500 meters, or accident can happen anywhere and everywhere. So it indeed is a very nicer move, but yes, the law needs to be very much stricter on this. Number one. Number two, there has to be huge penalties. Number three, education, definitely it has to come into picture, because end of the day, it's a man who is using the machine, and machine sensitivity and a man's sensitivity towards machine should be very, very, very crucial, because end of the day, it is nothing else but casualness towards my own life. A vehicle is a weapon if not used right, and helmet saves at times, because WHO also says that a helmet saves approximately 70% of fatalities when it is used rightly, when it comes to road uses as a bike rider or two-wheeler rider. Yeah, so WHO says 42% of brain injuries are also saved by this. So we need to understand that this is very important thing. When you are on a two-wheeler, you are totally raw on the road. Any iron thing which will hit you will be dangerous for you. So you need to understand that brain and head is the most important part of our body. So it is a serious thing. People need to take it seriously. It's not a casual thing. Yes, it's a very beautiful move. No fuel, no helmet or no fuel. And yes, it needs to be dealt very strictly. Ji.
Absolutely, Mr. Sinha, thank you for that.
Can you hear
Ms. Singh,
me?
I want to come back to you now, considering that you are somebody who has, of course, frequented India's roads, not necessarily in a four-wheeler, but we're talking about two-wheelers here. In your experience, would you be able to talk about what you've seen on India's roads in terms of the lack of implementation of laws, the lack of people using helmets, also the kind of accidents that you may have been witness to?
Can you hear me?
See, I've been riding motorcycles for
Yes,
more
Ms. Singh,
than
can you
3
hear us?
decades now. And
Absolutely. Mr. Kumar, I will come back to you for this. Actually wanted to direct this question to Ms. Singh.
Yes, that's right. You can hear
oh,
me,
I'm
right,
sorry.
Aisha?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I would like to say that I do agree with everything that the other panelists have just now said. I do want to highlight that when it comes to safety, most people that are coming from good schools, are coming from good colleges, do have the ability to see that how the importance road safety and wearing a helmet can save lives. But people at the grassroots level, people who are living in villages, people who are riding splendors and these smaller 150cc bikes, even scooties for that matters, are not, they do not have access to this education, they don't have access to this kind of awareness that how wearing a helmet can save their lives. So many times when we are on the roads, people who ride with me in my group or my other friends, we are very well aware what are the consequences. But to support Mr. Samir also, yes, there needs to be education, but to implement that kind of education for people who are already out of school, who are already out of college, who are now working, how are you going to execute it at that scale and that efficiently is something that is questionable and at that speed. Whereas if we implement this law, then by large a larger audience will be imposed, will be mandated to use that helmet. Yes, there will be people who will take it off, but once this law comes into play, police patrolling, the fines and the petrol pumps, all of them together are trying to point out this. So I feel that even brands, advertisers and other players out there, outdoor advertising, all of that needs to make wearing helmet a cool thing, wearing helmet an important thing, showing visuals and ads how you can, these statistics, the common man needs to see this, they need to read it in Hindi, they need to read it in English, and it needs to be advertised. Even movies that we see, there are stunts happening, action sequences where our heroes are not wearing helmets, so everyone inspires that I will take a bike and I will also do this stunting, or I will also go on the highway without a helmet. So most accidents are happening with 150cc below bikes, and those are the people who need the most awareness. We need to have hoardings talking about how a helmet can save your life. We need to have nukkad nataks, we need to have plays, and we need to start this education in school. All my schooling, there was never any play or any educational information about why you must wear a helmet. All of this I have learned later on in life, and I bought my helmet before I invested in a bike, and I made sure that I invested in a good helmet. So that idea of what is a good helmet, like Mr. Samir said, or what is something that will actually save your head when you have an accident is important. And that can be done at the point of sale. When Hero Honda or any other brand is selling a Splendor or selling a 150cc bike, that is where they need to also show, have you bought a helmet? That
Yes.
needs to be part of the checklist, which doesn't happen today. Your bike is given if you have certain documentation and you give us the money. But at point of sale, if you mandate playing a video why it is important to save helmets and show a video of how XYZ person died because they were not wearing a helmet. And similarly, when we are standing at the red light and there are Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and all these ads, those ads need to be replaced with why you need to wear a helmet. There is so much talk about don't drink and drive, or nazar hatti, durghatna ghati. None of that
Absolutely.
is targeted to two-wheelers. So it
Yes,
needs
Ms.
to be
Singh,
a
very valid
combination of
points you're
this.
bringing about the challenges that could be faced with this sort of implementation and what we really need to do in the future to ensure that the positive message around wearing helmets is received by those who are the ones who really need to hear it. I do
Yes.
want to get in a few more points. Mr. Kumar, I want to come back to you for this because you were just talking about how you don't really believe that forcing the driver to adhere to a rule like this is a good idea. But then do you think we need to, this is along the same lines though, do you think we need to start taking away licenses in order for the consequences to resonate?
See, there is no question that wearing helmets should be mandatory, but with a law like no fuel without a helmet, one little point that I'd like to express here, first of all, is that a lot of people are now moving to electric scooters and motorcycles, electric bikes of all kinds, right? So what do you do about them? They will not be going to petrol pumps, right? So that is one very large segment and a very quickly growing segment of riders that you are not addressing with this no fuel law. So that is one. The second thing is, like I said, coercion perhaps doesn't always work. Education does, training does, coercion doesn't. But but implementation is of course very important. So like I said, use all means, use police patrolling, use cameras. Speed cameras are installed everywhere now. So use those cameras to catch people who are not wearing helmets. Also make it mandatory for the pillion rider. So people who are using motorcycles, scooters without a helmet, by all means do have hefty fines for those people, and especially for repeat offenders, right? So in some Western countries, you get points on your license. Uh, Repeat offenders get points. And then at some point, if you get to a certain number of points, your license is taken away. So I don't know. Maybe India needs to look at some such measures. So that is one. Another very important thing could be now that much more powerful, bigger capacity, faster motorcycles are coming to India, have a graded licensing system like you have in a lot of other countries. So a first-time rider right now, somebody who's let's say 20 years old, who's never ridden motorcycles in the past, but who does have money, can just walk into a showroom and buy a 200 horsepower superbike, which is like it's suicidal really. So have a graded licensing system. Once you start riding bikes, let's say for the first year you can only ride 100 or 125cc bikes, and for maybe the next 2 years you can maybe ride only 250s, move on to 400s and bigger. So now you have 600cc bikes, 1000cc bikes, bikes that can do speeds of
Absolutely.
300 kilometers per hour. So, like I keep saying, rider training, rider education, maybe a graded licensing system, all these measures need to be implemented, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Mr. Kumar, thank you so much for giving us that perspective as well. Mr. Shailesh, final word from you. When we talk about the overall state of driving, whether it's driving on the wrong side of the road, not using indicators, and this goes for all vehicles, where do you think we're lacking as a nation?
As a nation, we are lacking in the aspect which is called as traffic education hygiene system, right? People are not students, and even we as a commuter on the road, we were never taught on the system and how as how to use the things on the road, which is hygienic for everyone. We need to be a respecting a commuter for everyone around us. Number one, we need to be a respecting commuter for the law. We need to be a national characterized character on the road. Yes, if I'm standing on the red light, that simply means I'm respecting my nation. I'm respecting the people around me. It is all about responsible behavior, because 70% of accidents happens because of irresponsible behavior. And helmet, no fuel, no helmet is a beautiful thing. It was already implemented in, I guess, 2019 or 20 in Gautam Budh Nagar zone, if I remember it right. And it was not very well, taken up by the people, because end of the day, with the casual approach, everything went in vain. So this time I'm thinking that yes, probably this time the things will be different. And yes, helmets are very, very, very important. Education is very important. Training is very important, right? And the implementation of law, the stricter the forces are, the easier for the people to be saved on the road would be, because people need to be educated that why it is important to be right on the road. And number two, the way there is an ad on cigarette that cigarette smoking is injurious to health, there has to be hoardings practically of the people who were casual and were suffering from XYZ, accident traumas. So this needs to be, because picture says louder than words. So there has to be this kind of communication also to the people through social media, to Instagrams or what all social media platforms are there, and even on hoardings and roadsides, that yes, this can happen to you. And the more it will be communicated through these kind of platforms, the more people would be adhering to the laws and stricter, applying of helmet usage, what they would be using, because end of the day, everyone wants his or her life safe. So we need to be stricter on this. And casual approach to all the commuters, my request to you all, please do not be casual, because an injury doesn't come telling you, it comes just like that. So be safe on the road, that's what I can say. And a vehicle is a weapon if not used right. It can be fatal for you, it can be fatal for somebody else also. So be responsible, be hygienic on the road. That's what I can say. Jai Hind.
Absolutely. Mr. Sinha, thank you so much for putting out that message as well. So Mr. Sinha, Ms. Singh and Mr. Kumar, thank you once again for taking out the time to discuss this very important matter of road safety. We really appreciate you taking out the time and giving us your perspectives on this new development in Uttar Pradesh and whether or not we're going to see any larger changes as far as the country is concerned, whether it comes to awareness, increasing the amount of education, or what have you. But with that, we're heading into a very short break. Do stay tuned, because we'll be right back with more.